morning, everybody. Welcome back. Today's Friday. Not a lot happening around school today. So much so, I think Madison and Olivia are lost in Never Neverland. Well, anyways, welcome to our Friday feature interviews. Today is Friday, February 5th. We're going to continue this show with Mrs. Rasmus. Mrs. Rasmus has been a teacher here for a long time, and Olivia conducted this video with her. So sit back, relax, pull up a chair, maybe some popcorn, and watch as Olivia continues to interview Mrs. Rasmus.
The next question is, where did you go to college? Also, please tell us if you went to multiple colleges.
All right, I went to Grace Harbor College, and at Grace Harbor College, I got an AS, which is an associate in science. And then I went to St. Martin's College because I could drive from here every day. I would work from 3 in the morning until 7 in the morning and drive from 7 to 9 and go to school from 9 to 2, come back home, get my kids ready for baseball and take a bath and get them their homework done and then do my homework and then go back and do it again. But it was the closest one I could drive to because I was married and had kids. So I went to St. Martin's and got my BA, which is a bachelor's degree, and it was in history and PE. And so I student taught in Aberdeen, and I decided I wasn't really sure that high school was for me at that time. So then I went back to Pacific Lutheran University, PLU, and I drove there every day, the same as I did for St. Martin's. And I got my MA there, my master's, and I got it in elementary education and reading. And then I went to City University and got my administration credentials. And when I did my internship for being a principal, I decided not to because you have to deal with discipline so much, and that's not really what I wanted. I wanted to be a teacher of teachers. I wanted to help out and teach teachers how to teach and get better. And it was just too much discipline for me. I really didn't like that part of it so much.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your family, and are you married?
I am married. My husband is Dale, and we have been married for 50 years on 12/12. I have 2 children, Stephen, who is married to Rachel, and his daughter is Bryn. And then I have Brian, who is married to Stacy, and his children are Elizabeth and Eldon, and they live in Fairbanks. And then I raised Kyle, my nephew, and Jennifer, my niece, and I have a granddaughter, Kayla, that is Kyle's. And I feel very lucky to have 4 grandchildren. I'm very proud of them. They are just wonderful children. And if I'd have known how much fun grandchildren were, I would have had more children. Grandchildren are the best. You get to spoil them rotten, and then you get to send them home. You get
to be the fun person, and then you take them home.
That's right.
Their parents have to train them again.
You get to eat candy for breakfast if you want. You get to stay outside and play hide and seek all night long if you want to. Sleep under the stars if that's what you want. And we try to do something different every summer, like zip lining or something like the I Fly thing. We try to do something every summer that's different. And I get my grandchildren actually from Alaska for about 6 weeks every summer. They get to come down and stay with me, except for last summer, of course, because of all the nonsense that's going on. But it is wonderful. And my car is always full. Lane, Andrew, and Noah. There was 7 or 8 kids and I would take them anywhere. We went to Disneyland. We've done so many things that they're just great kids. I would take them anywhere.
Thank you for telling us about your family and answering the background questions. So now we're going to move on to the job questions.
All right.
First of all, how long have you worked here?
I think about 42 years.
What grades or subjects have you taught?
I have taught kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I think I skipped 5th. I don't think I've taught 5th. 6th, 7th and 8th, I taught health and PE. 9, 10, 11, and 12, I taught health and PE also. So I've taught every grade, I think, but 5th. And I don't know how I missed that one. But every time that they wanted somebody to, change grades or needed somebody to move, I always volunteered because it's kind of exciting to get to start all over again. I was in 1st grade for 14 years, and I mean, it was fun, but it was nice to move around a little bit too and get a little more enthusiasm about having to try to learn how to do it all over again.
What was your favorite grade or subject to teach and why?
My favorite grade is 1st grade. And 1st grade is because they come so far in that year that you have them. You get to see so many light bulbs go on, and from most of them not reading to being able to read some of them chapter books, and most of them not being able to do a whole lot of math to being able to, it's like, oh yeah, figuring out where place value is and what money is and what time is. And it is really exciting to see them write stories. I mean, sure, they don't have capitals and periods, but some of their stories are so exciting. And then when you want to publish them, of course, then you go back and you edit for them and all that kind of stuff. But some of their stories are just unbelievable by the time they get done with 1st grade, from not even knowing, how to write their name when they first start. But 1st grade is just, I don't know, it is just so exciting. I loved 1st grade.
What was the hardest part of being a teacher for any of the grades, high school or elementary, and why?
The hardest part of being a teacher, I think, is the nightmares that you have if somebody's not learning how to read or somebody's not getting the math. What else can you do? What is something that you can think of that is going to help them get it? Like shaving cream on the desk, spelling words, writing in it. But for me, hands-on is really important because that's how I learn. So, and a lot of times we forget that. We forget about doing all that, even in high school. I mean, high school, they don't do it at all, hardly. But in elementary especially, we need a lot of hands-on stuff for those kids. Most kids, of course, get it without that. And that's why it's easy to forget. But there are some of us that need that hands-on stuff. And so when you're having those thoughts of what am I going to do for this child? What is going to work, to pounding on your arm, the spelling of words, to the sounds of making motions to things, and anything that you can think of to get them to finally have that light bulb go off. It's a nightmare sometimes. It is not fun, let me tell you.
Let's talk opposite of nightmares and instead talk about daydreams. What's the best part of being a teacher and why do you think so?
The relationships that you build, all the light bulbs you get to see go off or go on, the I guess the bridges that you make with these kids and seeing where they're going with their lives, thinking that when you see all these successful kids that we had a part in that as teachers, some more than others, but I think all teachers have a part in their lives somewhere when they're going through adulthood or teenage years or any of that kind of stuff. I just think that seeing their success is very, very rewarding. You feel like your job has been worth something.
This is something that I personally wonder because it's something that I feel like if teachers, I feel like the kids, when teachers hear them like complaining, they hear them talking about grading. So how long does it typically take you to grade assignments after school?
Oh man, that's a hard one because it depends on what grade you're in. In 1st grade, of course, I believe that you need to be checking all the time because you don't want them to learn to do something wrong because they're just learning how to do things. So you pretty much check their papers as you go. You don't collect them all and then correct them at night and then bring them back. You correct them as they go. So 1st grade, probably first, second grade, you don't have a whole lot of after school. It's the planning stuff that you have for the kids that are not getting it, and for the kids who are reading chapter books already, so you have such a wide variety of things to plan for that it takes up almost all of your time. But when you get a little bit older, then you can give them an assignment and then have them hand it in and correct it, and they understand a little bit more of how to correct it, and you trust them more to get it done correctly. And if they don't, they usually are not afraid to ask for help. And when you're in first grade, most of the time they're not really good at asking for help yet, but when they get older, you're pretty good at asking for help. And so usually you are doing it correctly when you're doing it. Online is really hard though, because you really can't tell if they're doing it right or not, because you can't see, and you can't spend 25 minutes having everybody show you their paper, because then the first person that showed you the paper now is bored stiff because everybody's showing their papers. So it's really difficult for this. And I would say in high school, I would try to get, if I wanted them to have the paper done in 2 days, I would try to make sure that I had it corrected in 2 days. Because I feel like, of course, as a teacher, you have 30 of that 2-day things to correct instead of just one, where they're just doing one. But I tried to, if I gave a test that day, I tried to make sure that it was corrected by the next day. Or if I gave an assignment that was due in 3 days, I tried to have it make sure that it was corrected in 3 days. And it takes a lot of time. I'm not going to lie. I've been at school many times, so 11 or 12. Well, actually longer than that, because as an AD, I was also correcting papers. So I would be here till 3 or 4 in the morning. But I just believed that if you gave them an assignment, then it should be corrected because you expected them to have it in. So that's just what I believe. So it takes a long time. I'm not going to lie to you. It's time consuming. Of course, you probably know that because your mom's a teacher. So she puts in that time too.
Yeah. You mentioned that there was some differences between the high school and versus now. High school and elementary. How do you think teaching has changed since you first started?
One thing about elementary that I think has changed a lot is at first we taught everything. We taught the art, we taught the PE, we taught the library, we taught it all. We didn't have any specialists. So we did all of that. And that's the part I think that I really enjoyed, was being able to change every 20 to 30 minutes to something else. I love teaching the science, and I love teaching social studies. I love teaching the first graders about presidents and capitals and states and all that kind of stuff. And now it seems like we spend a lot of our time reading and math, and that's just about all we get to do. And I think the other part was the fun part of going to school. I think that school should be fun to go to. And when you're just doing reading, and math, and you don't, because the sciences are the part that are kind of different and exciting, and you get to do experiments and you get to do hands-on stuff. And social studies is kind of exciting because it's part of your world, and you're always, I mean, my first graders loved learning the states and the capitals and the presidents and all that kind of stuff. They really had a good time with that stuff. And it was a little different than sitting down and reading and writing and doing math. But I think that's the part I miss more than anything, is the fun part of going to school. Love teaching the arts and love teaching music. We even had to teach our own music and all that kind of stuff. But we did it, and they seem to have learned.
Let's talk about who we're teaching now. Do you feel like students have changed since you first started teaching here?
I think their expectations of themselves, especially for most of the kids, their expectations are that things are going to come easier to them, because everything now is such an entertaining type of, everything's a video, everything's on the phone, everything. You really don't have to know anything hardly. You can look it up on Google. You know how to use your phone? Look it up on Google, and I just don't think teachers can compete with a video and your phone and all the excitement, the TV and computers and all the stuff that they have now that we didn't have before. So I didn't feel like I had to entertain all the time. Where now I kind of feel like if you're going to learn a lesson, it's got to be kind of entertaining. And I'm not very colorful, and I'm not very, I don't bounce around and sing and all of that kind of stuff. Like you guys, you're so used to all that stuff now. You guys have that every day. When we didn't even have a TV. I mean, my kids didn't get a TV till they were 13, but they can read like mad. They don't read books. They read boxes of books, and they know how to play every game that there is, but they could entertain themselves. They were really good at that. I think you have a hard time entertaining yourself nowadays. You have to have a phone in your hand. I see little babies that have phones in their hands when they're in carts, and I see, they're, instead of actually talking to them and actually interacting with them, you are handing them a phone and saying, here, be quiet, or sitting them in front of the TV and say, here, babysit for me. So it's really different in that way, the entertainment part of what's going on. And a lot of teachers, of course, younger teachers now are using videos to teach with too. So I think that's what's different.
What were you like as a student?
I was a very busy little girl. I was one that could not sit still. I was up on my knees. I was under the desk. I was on top of the desk. I wanted to be outside. So my handwriting was probably not the best, until one time I had to miss recess to do my handwriting over again. And believe me, I never did that again. Handwriting became something that I was really sure that I needed to do neatly. And so, and I actually, when we were in 5th and 6th grade, we actually had a penmanship pen that they were trying out on us that we had to do circles with, and we had to do lines with, and we had to work really hard on penmanship. And nowadays, you guys don't even have to write, you just type it. The fact is, they don't even learn cursive writing and how to sign their signature on something. That's the part that gets me. How do you, I mean, I have a freshman, she still prints her name. She doesn't write it in cursive. I guess pretty soon we're not gonna have to, we're just gonna put an X from the computer, or put your thumbprint on it or your fingerprint on it. Maybe
Like
your
a
forehead print. Yeah, there you go.
Fingerprint scanner that you put.
There you go. Don't have to sign anything.
So, have you had any other jobs besides you teaching and coaching at Ocosta?
I have. I started in my 7th grade year. I worked at the motel right next to the school. I was a motel maid. I cleaned the rooms and made beds and did the vacuuming and cleaned all the sinks and stuff like that. And I worked there for 2 summers, I think. And I actually, every month that you worked there, you got a nickel raise. So by the end of the summer, I was making 70 cents an hour, which I thought was absolutely fabulous. And we got to swim for free because they had a pool over there. And now they've filled it all in, and they don't have that pool there anymore, but we got to swim for free every day. And then my 8th grade summer, I started working at a restaurant called Bearden's Pancake Shop. And actually our mayor, Rob Bearden, it was his parents that owned it. And I worked there for 25 summers. I was a waitress, and I loved it. I love being a waitress. I love the talking to people, meeting people from different places. And we had all kinds of, we had like the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy come to our restaurant. We had one of the Kennedys come to our restaurant. We had the Sonics come to our restaurant. We had the Hells Angels come to our restaurant. We had John Wayne, all these people that came to go fishing, actually. They didn't come to visit us, but they visited us because we were waiting on them. But so, and I loved being a waitress. I mean, it was something that it was fun for me. And I worked like, I think, probably about 3 or 4 different restaurants, but I worked there the longest. For 25 years, I worked there. And that's the place I worked from 3 in the morning until 7, and then drove from 7 to 9 to go to school. So it put me through college. And you can get a job waitressing anytime, anywhere, just about. So it's something that if you go to school, you can make some money.
All right, that's it for the day. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great weekend. If you want to send anything in for questions or comments, have any shout outs, or maybe even a pledge video. By the way, a couple of them are starting to sneak in. Good job, everybody. There are emails down below. So before I go, I've got to remind you, be a good kid. Do the right thing. Bye.